2, 3, 4, 5. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this virtual event, which I am very honored to be a part of. This is a really exciting time because the topic that we have today about the trends in digital technology is something that's been touching our lives because of the situation that we have been living in the whole planet lately. And this event also is touching the subject of 3 different global chambers working together in one virtual event. We have 3 really professional speakers. We have Kuntal Warwick today with us, Jesus Herrera, and Rick Parada. And that will give us San Diego, Sonora, and Phoenix. And then we have Guanajuato hosting the event. So this is a great event for us. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Kuntal, and please share what we have today, Kuntal.
Thank you, Arturo. Thank you for having me. And it's good to be reconnected with the Global Chamber team. And so let me just very quickly share my screen here. Okay. So, what we have for you today is really just some insights that we've gained in working with our clients and with small and medium-sized businesses that are looking to export from Southern California. And just to note that this is part of a larger program that we provide, but this is really broad strokes. And what we think are, some good foundations, particularly for small businesses that are looking to go global through a digital marketing campaign. So hopefully this will be helpful to you, particularly at this time. So just a very quick little background about myself. You have contact information here, but my experience is really, I started with large public sector initiatives, and I've kind of come full circle in working with the California International Trade Center that's really focused on supporting California's SMEs to export more effectively through digital trade and e-commerce. In the last 5 to 10 years, I've worked primarily with SMEs in the B2B and B2C area across industries. And we really focus on aligning business, marketing, and creative strategies with particular emphasis on brand and content development. So I came across this quote recently in Deloitte's 2020 Global Marketing Trends report. And I thought it was very relevant, particularly at this time, that companies that lead with purpose can achieve continued loyalty, consistency, and relevance in the lives of consumers. And the thing that I would add here is companies can lead with purpose, authenticity, and simplicity. And I think if you can incorporate that into a really effective digital marketing campaign, you will have a certain, you'll reach a certain benchmark of success for sure. So we've essentially identified 3 principles in working with companies here that we think is important in any digital marketing campaign. And those 3 principles really revolve around branding, positioning, and engagement. And so when we're talking about your brand, we're really talking about what does your company do, what story does it want to tell, and what are some of the best things that you want the customers, that the company wants the customers to know about them. So obviously that's a combination of design, messaging, and description that's going to be uniquely theirs and distinguished from the competitors. So, I can't imagine a company that's better at brand loyalty than Apple. They're recognizable anywhere in the world, and their design is very consistent, product design, marketing design, as well as how they engage their consumers And most importantly, they're responding to the consumer. So no matter what platform they're using, there's a consistency throughout. So that's something that I think is very, very important, particularly when you're going global and particularly at a time like this. So the next principle we really want to focus in on is defining your positioning. And by doing that, you're really creating a stronger value proposition, especially when you're entering an international market. So whether you're doing it, regardless of whether you're doing it through e-commerce or through mobile or social media, being able to really well define your positioning. So how you set yourself apart from the competition, what benefits your product or service is providing to consumers that others in the marketplace may not. How are you reaching those consumers? I think all of that is really key to positioning, and that really then ultimately strengthens your value proposition. And we find that this is really important, especially when you're going into an international market, and especially at a time like this. So that leads us into really, I think, the holy grail of any kind of digital marketing campaign, which is engagement. I think when you're creating community, you're ultimately creating a sense of brand loyalty and brand recognition. And not only that, but you're creating interest, buy-in, and ultimately action. So especially now, I think when direct sales is much more difficult, especially overseas, what you can do and spend a little bit more time on is creating brand loyalty and creating consumer loyalty. So if you think in those terms, I think a lot of your efforts will be directed in a very focused manner, and will set you up for further growth and success down the line when things do improve. So the last thing I wanted to share with you in terms of just, content is content, actually. So this is sort of the core of the trifecta that we just shared with you, at least from our perspective. So, creating collateral, creating content. Ultimately, what is it that you want to say, and how do you want to say it? And what channels are you using? So, and what kind of visuals are you using? So are you going to be incorporating video in addition to a website? Will you be developing a brochure, flyers, postcard? Will it be primarily digital, or will you also be supplementing with print? And of course, which channels will you be using? I think this is particularly important when you're looking at social media, but it's also important when you're thinking of email campaigns and even mobile marketing. So we really think that content drives both engagement as well as ultimately conversions. So just some data that I quickly wanted to share with you, and we were able to capture this from HubSpot and Statista. But if you look at companies, these are all 2020 statistics. If you look at companies with a marketing strategy, 60% of their marketing strategy leads with content. For those who are actually getting into paid social media, over 50% of social media ROI comes from Facebook. And these are worldwide statistics, by the way. It's not just US-based statistics. And then most companies are sending out or posting on social media 3 to 4 times a week, and sending out emails 3 to 5 times a week. I'm not sure that I necessarily would follow that trend, but this is what's happening in practice. And then some leading social media platforms. This is in millions of users worldwide. Leading is Facebook, followed by YouTube, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, WeChat, Instagram, and TikTok. And I think what you'll notice here is at least the leading 3 platforms. These are platforms where you can really utilize both written content and visual content fairly seamlessly. And it's also a way to, I think, very intimately engage the consumer as well. So I think that's important to note. Leading benefits of social media, this is according to marketers worldwide. Interestingly enough, the leading benefit of social media is exposure and what I would call brand awareness. So that is then followed by traffic generation to the website, creating leads, audience loyalty. Sales comes in 5th out of 8. Market insights, partnerships, and thought leadership. So once again, this sort of supports the idea that particularly with social media as a channel, it's a great place to engage, to create brand awareness, brand loyalty, and then ultimately over time, again, according to what we see, ultimately over time, that can then result in sales and conversion, call to action. So just a couple of thoughts on content very quickly. You know, video has become the most commonly used format in content marketing, which is overtaking blogs and infographics. This is according to HubSpot. And then email marketing, last but not least, is really continuing to have high engagement and drives call to action, especially when it's generated from government, real estate, design and construction, and agriculture sectors. And what's interesting to note here is that in retail and consumer package sectors, there's actually been very poor response to email marketing. Of course, in the last 3 to 5 months, a lot of the data has been skewed. Response rates are low all around, although email sends are still quite high, but conversation is happening. So whether that's through social media, whether it's in these sectors through email campaigns, or even through a website and just directly contacting businesses, conversations are being had, which is the good news. So the last thing I'd like to leave you with are just really 6 takeaways to kind of sum all of this up, particularly when you're going global. I think it's so highly important, and everything that we've shared with you really gets infused with all of these points, which is know your market and your audience. Adopt cultural strategy and localization. So the two, I think, really go hand in hand. You want to know what's happening on the ground. You want to know what people are doing, who your competitors are, what their positioning is, and then what your positioning will be. You want to be able to balance brand and consumer messaging so that you're not just talking about your company or talking about your brand or your product or service all the time, but you're really translating that to the needs of the consumers that you're targeting. And then when you're thinking of digital, as I mentioned before, really think in terms of mobile marketing and e-commerce, especially in emerging markets and in developing countries. And then ultimately you want to integrate that purpose, trust, and content in a way that's creative, fun, and informative. So, marketing is an investment, but there is a way to make it interesting and fun and really create a wonderful relationship with your target audience. So that's all that we have, and I'm happy to take questions at the end.
This is a really valuable information, especially for those companies out there that are new in the market and that are trying to explore different markets. At this point, there is only one question that I think it suits the time, and I would like to ask you very quickly, Kuntal. Are there any new or different types of content that are more useful and appropriate in these last 6 months with the pandemic?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I attended a webinar, a marketing webinar about 3 months ago, and I think ultimately the the prescription from that webinar was, this is a really tough time in which to market, but it's a great time in which to communicate. So I think what companies should really be thinking about is, what is it that they want to communicate about their brand, about their company, about their offering? Are they able to meet an immediate need? And if so, then marketing becomes much more relevant. Otherwise, I think it's a really good time to just continue the conversation. Video, as I mentioned, is highly effective right now. It's being utilized more and more, and there's more and more engagement. I also think YouTube is a wonderful way to reach an audience these days. It's used in so many different ways now, whether it's education, whether it's a tutorial, or just simply a promo for a product or a service. I think it's just a wonderful platform. So any type of video platform, I think, is really great. And then just continuing to add thoughtful information on your website, whether it's about your product or service, or whether it's about things that are related to your product or service. Just ways to keep the conversation going and keeping people engaged is key at this point in time.
Great, wonderful. Any entrepreneur out there that is listening to this information, we're gonna have a follow-up later on, and we're gonna continue with this topic. Remember, this is the trend. What's happening in these last 5-6 months with the technology. And then the next speaker has a really interesting company, Rick Parada from Ekatar. Will talk to us about this trend and what's happening from his point of view. Rick, go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you guys. Just give me a second so that I can present my keynote, and I guess you have it there. So thanks so much for the time, and also I'm really excited to be with you guys talking about everything that is going on in the world. So, well, we are in digital, right? But what's next for your strategy, for your company, for your brand, for your personal brand in social media? So first of all, I believe it has to do with knowledge, right? So what's the name of the youngest generation right now in the world? So if you guys think about it, it's not millennials, it's not Gen Z, it's Generation Touch. But they are changing, right? Because everything that we have been living through the pandemic. So right now they are known as Generation COVID, because everything that they have been living right now, it's gonna change them for the long run. And it's something that that amazes me. It's been 5-6 months since everything has changed, that we are starting to see how all these changes are changing the way they are behaving. One of the main things that is going on in the world is that they are taking online classes right now, and there is like a huge conversation about if you take your kids to the school, or if you stay with them and go and jump in through Zoom or whatever. So Generation COVID are our kids that are going through elementary and junior high school. And well, as I told you, they will be changing a lot in everything that is going on in the world. So they're trying to adapt their lifestyles because they cannot live as they used to. So we will beginning to see them as a generation that will change everything, I don't know, in 10 to 15 years ahead. So many changes, right? At the beginning, we were like really worried about toilet paper, but here in Mexico, I was more worried because I didn't find Diet Coke in a supermarket. So everything is changing, and we're trying to adapt, and all the strategies are changing. What used to work before, it's not working right now. And most of all the brands that I know, they are now in digital. And thinking about and seeing all the statistics about the e-commerce, we have seen a huge spike in e-commerce transactions. In the US, McKinsey just released a report about how everything has changed, especially there. They were tracking like things that were going on through e-commerce, and they discovered that in 3 months, most of all the technology related with e-commerce jumped 10 years ahead in time, which is crazy. And everything that is going on at the end is impacting the world, right? So let's take a look at this.
That's life. That's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April. You're shot down in May. I'm gonna change that too. When I'm back on top of June. I say that's life. And as funny as it may seem, some people get their kicks stomping on the trains. Anybody who think it was worth your while, I'm gonna roll myself up in a big ball and fly.
And well, I really love this commercial, not only because I like beer, because it reflects everything that we are going on, right? Like, it's crazy to be connected 24/7. It's crazy to be jumping from the iPhone to the tablet, to the computer, to the laptop, to the TV, and everything has to do with the screens that we are going through. In a recent study talking about Generation C, they said that they were the first generation that was able to be paying attention into 5 different screens, everything at the same time. And I believe right now we have that ability because we are there. We are staying at our homes, most of the population, and well, we are adapting. So what's next for this digital strategy? Well, it has to do with knowledge, with empathy, and with purpose. All the brands that I know, it doesn't matter if it's a small, medium, or large, everything, they are like trying to come up with a new purpose, because the end consumer, the digital consumer, the regular consumer, we want those brands to jump and said whatever they have to say about COVID, whatever they have to say about how they are keeping us safe, because in that term, we will be obviously spending money with them, and it's really impressive. So 91% of the people believe in the power in social media to connect with other people, and we have a company that it's called Trek. It's a bicycle company, and well, like during the pandemic, like 2 months ago, we released this campaign for them that it's called Go by Bike, and it's just it doesn't matter if you have a Trek, if you have any other brand, it is that time for you to ride a bike. Why? Because that's a way you can be safe. That's a way you can keep safety distance. That's the way you can connect with others. So something that I really love about this campaign is that we are inviting the world to connect. And that's something that we want. We want to connect with people that we don't know. We want to connect with people that we share some stuff. So at the end, social media has a huge power. Instagram is changing a lot, and we are connecting through hashtags. Right now, it doesn't matter if I'm in Mexico or if you guys are in the US, if another consumer is in India or South Africa. We are sharing whatever we are living. And something that I really love about this campaign is that we are not selling bikes. We are just inviting the world to jump in through this specific hashtag and then connect. And sometimes for other brands, it's like a huge setback to change that ship, to change that perspective, that it's not about just selling the product. It's about telling about the experience, telling the consumer about what makes you different. And from that point, you can keep that conversation to obviously convert, because at the end we need sales, right? So there are many changes going on with the digital consumer. And the most important concept that I believe we have in the world is safety. Safety is it's on our top of mind, and that's why I was telling before that in the way as a brand we can connect with that consumer and tell them that they are safe with us. That consumer will be going to that specific physical store, will be connecting to that new e-commerce, will be connected to through also the social media communications. Something that is huge is that 50% of the global population will stop going to malls. And well, in the US, this is something that we have been tracking down for the last, I don't know, 5-10 years. But in the world, and especially in Latin America, malls are huge. But at the end, that consumer is afraid to get sick of COVID, right? So that's why many brands are changing their business model. One example that I believe it's important to take in consideration is the movie theaters, and also the Hollywood studios. I used to work in Paramount Pictures like some time ago, and Universal Pictures during April, I believe, they released Trolls, the second movie, in iTunes and Amazon and all those platforms. And that was something that we have never seen in the movies, never in our life. But right now, like all the Hollywood studios are trying to jump in, right? Are trying to change. And they are understanding that they need to make money, obviously, to exist and everything. And the way to do it, it's by releasing and changing and adapting to that specific end consumer. One in four of work professionals in the world are planning to stay at home doing their work. And this is something that started with Twitter. Twitter, I believe like 1 or 2 weeks right after everything was in the world, we were in lockdown, they decided to give everyone the right to be and to work at home. And from that point, I believe like two weeks before Twitter released this communication, we have Apple, we have Google, we have other companies that decided to give that privilege to everyone because we are trying to keep going with the business, right? So 4 in 10 of the online shopping user is increasing their spend in other platforms, not only Amazon, not only Mercado Libre or any other, but we are starting to see a huge trend, obviously, because we need to also invest our money, right? It's not only what at the end consumer is saving, but they want to also engage with other brands. And well, everything that is going on with this huge trend to stay at home is changing the way we are relating with our spouses, with our kids. And also this is affecting fast food channels and restaurants because there is a huge setback for them. McDonald's in the US is, along with Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, and other fast food chains, deciding to close many stores through the US and also globally. Why? Because we are staying at home and we want to cook, and we need to cook because at the end it's something that keeps us safe and keeps the stress away. Also, in terms of this huge trend to train at home, it's a huge thing globally, and we are also starting to see that many gym goers are looking for to cancel their memberships, and this is like also like impacting like the whole world. At the end, the main challenge is to adapt, and we have to adapt really quickly.
day I knew you were mine. I want to tell you how much I love you.
At the end, we will get there. But in the meantime, we need to stay up to date with everything that is going on. As you know, like a couple of weeks ago, Instagram released a new function that it's called Reels. And it is a copycat from TikTok because TikTok has changed many, many things in the way we do and produce content for brands to connect with the end consumer. And well, Reels, it's important. Along with Instagram shops, along with Facebook shops, that it's a way, it's an easy way to develop your e-commerce. And well, thank you so much for your time. This keynote like usually takes like an hour, so I tried to give you like all the facts as soon as I could. Well, if any one of you guys want to keep in touch, you can send me a DM. Also, DM in Instagram, it's about to be gone. And because Facebook decided to change everything to Messenger. So Facebook Messenger, it's gonna be a huge thing because that's the way we will be connecting WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and whatever they come up in the near future. So thank you so much for your time, guys. And well, at the end, the idea is to adapt and to be jumping into all these new trends that are going in digital.
Thank you, Rick. This is really important for the people out there that are trying to get into the market and have a question or doubts about marketing strategies. There are these type of companies like Ekatar that this is what they do. This is exactly what they are for. And if you are an entrepreneur and you're thinking, oh yes, I can do this, I don't need those kind of services. Well, guess what? We have experts in the area that are willing to take your hand and guide you successfully through a campaign and make your business grow. This is what we do in Global Chamber. And all this brings me right now to an idea. During these 5 months that we've been quarantined, everything has been like stopped except in Global Chamber, because our CEO, Doug Brunke, had this idea of connecting the whole world virtually through virtual events over the internet. And we were ready for that because of that idea. He was living in the future. So this is kind of like, you know, the reality of things are like happening and we're living it. So yes, thank you for that presentation, Rick. Let's go to the last presenter, and it's Jesus Arturo Herrera from Hermosillo, Sonora. And he's gonna give us more information about these new trends. Go ahead, Jesus.
Thank you, Arturo. Well, we have been having like a whole conversation about going digital, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to set your e-commerce store for you to start selling online. So my name is Jesus Herrera. I'm the CEO of Necodex and PuzzleX, and I'm going to talk to you about this. So how can you start your own e-commerce business? The main thing that you need to stay focused on is that you can start selling online. It doesn't matter if you are selling a product or a service. So maybe there are people that are having this idea that only products can be sold online. But if you have a service that you can provide, it doesn't matter if you are here or you are in the US or you are in South America, you can offer your service online. So I want to emphasize, we can have like an e-commerce path in order to start selling online. So maybe the first step would be start posting your products on Facebook Marketplace. This still doesn't accept any payment methods, but with the release of Facebook shops and Instagram shop, maybe this will going to change. Then the next step maybe will be go through a marketplace store like Amazon, eBay, Etsy, and Mercado Libre in Latin America. So you can start posting your products in there, and they are very simple and easiest way to start selling online using these kind of platforms. You only have to go in, create your account, post your products and services, and then you're going to start receiving your money. And maybe the last step will be having your own e-commerce step, your own e-commerce shop, where you can set it up with WooCommerce, Shopify, Magento, or any other technology that offers e-commerce platform. So the main two worlds that we have right now, it's having your own e-commerce or having a marketplace where you are posting your products. The differences between one of those, e-commerce has a higher initial investment, because marketplace, you only need to create your account and you don't need to invest in any more. In e-commerce, you sell your products only in your store, and in the marketplace, you have a lot of competition, because if you are selling, let's say, a shirt, there are a lot of vendors that are trying to sell the same shirt. In your e-commerce, all the profits goes directly to you. And in the marketplace, it depends on the category of the products, but they mostly take a commission between 8 to 20% of the commission of the product. So if you are starting to sell in any marketplace, you have to have this idea in mind that you are going to give them around 8 to 20% of your profit. In e-commerce, you can get a lot more personalized online experience, and in the marketplace, all the stores or all the products look the same, because you are selling through Amazon, through eBay, or through Etsy, and you are seeing their whole branding, not yours. And in e-commerce, you can increase the traffic to your e-commerce. And when you are selling through any marketplace, you are selling to the marketplace customers, not to your customers. So they can change from provider, like from one day to another. So this is something to have in mind. We're going to explain a little bit about creating your new store, your own store. One thing to have in mind is the top 1 million sites that we have around the world. This is the technology that we are mostly using, that are WooCommerce and Shopify. And the main differences, we're going to go through these steps to creating, for example, a Shopify store. These steps are pretty simple. You just go ahead, create your account. You have a 14-day trial, so you can start creating your own store. If you want, you can start with your monthly fee that is around $29 up to $299. Then you go ahead and connect your domain. You have to buy a domain. You can buy it through Shopify, or you can buy it through any domain seller that is going up there. Let's say GoDaddy, HostGator, or anyone. And then you only have to select any theme. So a good point to have in mind is you have to create your store to be seen on mobile, because around 80% of the persons that are going to get through your website are going to be through your mobile device. So you have to have that in mind once you are creating your store. And if to have it in WooCommerce is you have to first buy a hosting. There are hundreds of hosting providers around there. You have Bluehost, DreamHost, HostGator, WP Engine, GoDaddy. You have a lot of hosting providers that you need to select one of those. You need to install WordPress first, because WooCommerce is a plugin that installs inside of WordPress. One good thing is that most hosting service providers has a one-click install. So you just go ahead, buy your hosting, click in install WordPress, and then you have all set to start your WooCommerce store. Then you need to install and set up WooCommerce. You need to set up all your payment processors or your payment gateways. You have to do all this. And as same is in Shopify, you have to select your theme. And again, always have in mind that the main target audience you are trying to get is from mobile view. So always design your website using that in mind. And at the end, you have to set up all the other things, payment gateways, taxes, shipping, and all that. So which are the main differences between these two technologies? The thing is that Shopify has a monthly fee. It's around $29 up to $299. With WooCommerce, you don't have that monthly fee, but you have to purchase your hosting. And even though you can have a hosting from around $5 up to $25 per month, you have to have that in mind. With Shopify, all the store is managed through Shopify, so you don't have control of it. You can modify the source code from it because it's from Shopify. But with WooCommerce, it's free code. It's open source, so you can modify it as long as you want. With Shopify, you just need a couple of minutes to start. As you see, we only require about 3 to 4 steps to create our Shopify store. And with WooCommerce, we first need to learn how to use WordPress and then continue to use WooCommerce. So this is a good and a bad thing. If you are pretty much familiar with WordPress, it would be very easy to start selling with WooCommerce, but you will have a learning curve. With Shopify, we have a basic SEO customization. SEO is initials for search engine optimization. So Shopify has a little bit less tools than WooCommerce to customize your SEO experience to your customers. And with Shopify, you don't have a lot of customizations on business models, but with WooCommerce, as you have the whole control of the source code because it's open source, it's mostly adaptable to every business model. So the main difference that we have maybe is if you are just starting selling online, it will be easier for you to go and start with a Shopify account or a Shopify store. And then if you want to pivot things or you need something a little bit more complex than a Shopify, then you can jump to WooCommerce. Another thing, and Rick also talked about this, is that we are now having the introduction to Facebook shops. So Facebook and Instagram are getting the new Instagram shop and Facebook shop together. We're going to be able to offer our products and services in our Facebook account. So we're going to be able to have our own e-commerce store in our Facebook account instead of having it in an external website. So it would be easier and it would be a little bit more simple to our customers so they can purchase online. They have a lot of functionalities that they are offering. For example, if you post a picture and you want to sell the shorts that the man is wearing, you can select a tag in the publication, and then it's going to offer you the experience to go ahead and buy the product. So this is mostly it. Again, with this presentation is for about a half an hour or an hour, but what are you waiting for? You have all the technologies, you have all the options to start selling online. So just go ahead and start doing your business.
Great information. We see that we have some contact information for the companies. All the speakers have their info at the end of the presentations. I would like to, we're gonna go ahead and jump into the Q&A section. And we're gonna be answering those questions in this last section of the presentation. But I would like to just mention very quickly, I heard in somewhere that in difficult times, we all can find opportunity. And that idea didn't make sense to me until this 4 or 5 months that we have been going through difficult times. And I think not only for our generation millennial or generation Z, I think everyone jumped into the digital era all at one time. and whether it's a grandfather or a grandmother, a little kid, wherever. I mean, we are all in the digital era. And you guys mentioned this is where business is. This is where communication is. This is where family is. And we can definitely take advantage of this. And that's why we have these companies offering their guidance. This is what Global Chamber is here for. This is what we do. We're gonna go ahead and start with the questions. We have some questions for Rick. Rick, we have a question that mentions, for what kind of business do you recommend TikTok?
TikTok, it's not for everyone. That's something that I want to highlight. It's not for B2B, it's only for B2C, but also you gotta take a look into the generation that you want to reach to. For example, Generation C, they are there. They invented this huge thing. Then millennials jump in during the pandemic. Then Xennials jump in during the pandemic. I'm including myself there. And maybe you can reach out to Generation COVID as well, because they are using TikTok, because they are looking into their parents and well, they are using it as well. So depending on the product and the service, I believe if you have a B2C company, you need to take a look into the platform.
Okay, wonderful. We also have a comment. Takeaway from Kuntal says a good time to communicate, have conversation, being engaged via virtually, keep people engaged with your website by having thoughtful info. YouTube, very important. What is the relevance from YouTube, Kuntal? Because I also have that doubt, because we have all these other platforms. What happened to YouTube?
Yeah, so I think YouTube has become quite ubiquitous. Like I said, you know, it's being used for so many different purposes now. It's not just, you know, some sort of crazy, interesting little eccentric show that somebody's putting on. You know, it's really being used for conversation and for engaging. So I think, and the fact that now Google, you know, owns YouTube, I mean, it's certainly broadened its scope as well. But I think the other thing I feel like what I really wanted to have people understand is that, you know, without sort of the real understanding of what it is that you want to present to the world about your brand or your product or service, you can use all different kinds of platforms, but I think it's still important to have these other elements in place as you go in. Obviously, you know, when you're jumping into e-commerce, you're jumping in and that has a life of its own. When you jump into social media, that has a life of its own. But if you're a larger company or a mid-sized company, then you really want to make sure that, you know, your branding and your messaging and everything is fairly consistent across all of the platforms that you're using. And YouTube just happens to jump out because it is gaining traction year after year. And there are so many different ways that you can engage with an audience with YouTube.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that, Kuntal. This question is for everybody. Can you speak to engaging versus buying? Engaging versus buying. And what techniques do you recommend for both? And particularly for the later. Besides POEs, what else is moving and how can we best move with market trends? Engaging versus buying. What can you tell me from your own perspective about this? Rick, you're
Okay, sorry. I believe you need to separate like those two concepts. Engagement has to do with interactions that are going through your social media content. Comments, likes, shares, DMs, messages, clicks on bio, whatever. And conversion has to do with that specific purchase, right? or at least that's the way we see these concepts in the agency. I don't know, Kuntal, if you want to jump in as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think, there's a certain, I just go a little further with that, in that I think there's a certain amount of engagement that needs to occur for most products or services before conversion actually happens. That's not the case with everyone. It obviously depends on your product or service or the audience that you're engaging with. And what does that sort of life cycle look like between first point of contact, and then conversion. So depending on the price point, depending on the positioning, depending on other competitors in the marketplace, how much differentiation you need to do, that time frame between point of engagement and conversion can be more or less, right? So I think you always have to look at engagement as building customer relationships and customer loyalty, and then conversion really will happen after that happens, most of the time.
Okay, thank you, Kuntal. This next question is for Jesus about his presentation. Is what you presented something a company can do on their own? Set up the e-commerce? What are the pluses and minuses of that? And what are the typical fails when a company is jumping in? How can you help?
Yeah, actually, there are lots of videos that goes through these steps, like pretty much detailed that only screenshots from what I shared. A company can easily go and start their business with Shopify or with WooCommerce. A starting point is maybe if you are not very tech savvy, maybe just go and try to start with Shopify, because again, with WooCommerce, you will have to first buy your hosting, then connect your domain, then go ahead and install WordPress. And if you are not that proficient using WordPress or any other web platforms, I would prefer you to start using Shopify. And they have a 14-day trial. So in those 14 days, maybe you can start with your learning curve, so you can start having your own e-commerce store.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have, I think, time for one last question, and this goes for all panelists. Are you seeing or hearing a desire for a specific marketplace from business owners? Is there something that's attracting or going to a new trend from what you have been exploring or hearing?
From at least what I'm hearing, and I'm assuming when they mention niche specific marketplaces, I'd like to know what that means a little bit more, but I'm assuming you're talking about platforms for musicians or artists or things like that, or region-specific marketplaces. Certainly region-specific marketplaces we're hearing a lot of desire for, but frankly, even for international sales and third-party platforms, we tend to deal primarily with the big ones, right? With Amazon, with Walmart, and Alibaba. These are the ones that we know of. But, certainly I think the niche specific ones like music marketplaces, like books marketplaces, artists, particularly artist marketplaces. I mean, what I think is really cool is, for instance, Sotheby's, this very sort of old establishment company has this incredible kind of online auction place now and bidding center, so that if you have art or jewelry or anything like that, you can literally just take a picture of it, upload it, and get an estimate from them, and then if they accept it, have it go to bid. So that's kind of cool. So but as far as whether there's a desire for it, I haven't really seen that, but I think that's partly just a matter of being aware that it even exists.
Okay, Rick?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There is a mix between people who wants to develop their e-commerce through Shopify or WeCommerce, or jumping and selling through Amazon or Mercado Libre or any other platform. We have seen some other companies that want us to develop their e-commerce from scratch, not using a platform per se. So it depends upon the information that that company has. As I told you, Facebook shops and Instagram shops are now the new player in town, I believe. So we will see, because not everyone knows that this is being created by social media. Also, we are also seeing that you can sell stuff through TikTok, and maybe we will see that people will at the end sell products and services through Reels or through Snap or through Pinterest, and also that's a huge trend.
Yeah, I think the comment was directed through the niche such as craft coffee or perhaps things like that. Arturo or Jesus, any comments?
Yeah, we as a company have only helping our clients to go online, so we don't do a lot of niche. So we mostly focus on B2B and B2C companies that they are already selling in their branches, and they only want to offer a new platform for the customers so they can start selling online. But yeah, we have been getting a lot of new ideas from certain clients that they want to, I don't know, they want to be the next Uber, or they want to be in their next big platform. They are seeing this as a platform or as an opportunity to start using all the digital conversion that we have all over the world, and they are trying to convert online their business.
Okay, thank you very much. This was a very exciting event for me because you guys are experts in your area, and we encourage any company out there that are looking for help in this area to contact these professionals. We have San Diego, we have Hermosillo, Sonora, we have Phoenix, Arizona, Global Chamber Guanajuato, it's growing. We have been scheduling more and more virtual events. If you are not a member, please become a member and join this club of elite entrepreneurs that it's becoming more successful every time. I thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure having this virtual event with you, and I hope to see you in more virtual events in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good one and good luck. We need to adapt as soon as we can. As soon as you see that trend, you need to take a look into that so that your business can go on. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you to the panelists.
Anybody interested in contacting these companies, approach your global chamber or the invite that you received, and we will gladly share the information. Thank you, everybody. Jesus.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. See you later. Bye-bye.